You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
Yeah. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode. From the sidelines down to the post, put it down like not even close. All out to the last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up. Let the team know that we got they back.
How about those friggin' Pirates?
Welcome into the Sports Objective as we have another great night. It's Thursday night, Friday Eve, and my good buddy from China Grove, North Carolina. Let's bring in Bubba Rosenbaum. What's up?
Not a whole lot, Dave. It's a miserable night here in the greater Charlotte area. Mid to upper 30s, and cold rain, brutal night. But fortunately, you don't have to be out in it.
No doubt, it's a great night to be inside to do a show. And Bubba, really happy to have our guest back. One of our favorites over the last few years.
Yeah, the Pirates are headed to Greenville, South Carolina on Saturday afternoon to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks on Lamar Paris' ball club. So very excited right now to be rejoined by Chris Phillips of the Spurs Up Show. Chris, welcome back.
Yeah, Bubba, Dave, I appreciate it. It's been a while. I was like, man, the guys have a new logo. I think maybe a new intro. So I see y'all are doing well and thriving, which is great to see. But no, I always enjoy talking ball with you guys, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, what have you. Again, we go around the horn. But no, it's always a pleasure, guys. I appreciate it and looking forward to it.
No doubt. In fact, you brought up a thing. We're going to be talking about baseball later on because we got a basketball game to talk about. But let me ask you this question, Chris. I know that you're really close with Coach Tanner, the AD, but I'm just saying that jokingly. But can we get South Carolina more games? Can we get more games with South Carolina? I know we have one more game left, I believe, at Carolina coming up in a few years. But maybe is it 2020? Bubba, is it 2025? It's coming up.
It's something like that. Yeah, I don't recall exactly, but that's correct.
We love
as far as having one more on the docket.
Yeah, we love playing South Carolina. You guys are not like it's a regional rivalry as far as, like being proximity, but we don't have the hatred. Like it's not the South Carolina Clemson game, I know, but it's still one that I feel like should be played. And I know you don't speak for the administration, but how about South Carolina fans? Is that something you guys would have an interest in playing East Carolina? I'm not saying it has to be obviously every year because of scheduling up for both teams would be really hard, but a home and home. I know that's something I heard is, by the way, that South Carolina would never come back to Greenville. I hope that's not true. I'm putting you on the spot, but just want to get your thoughts.
No, I'd love it. I think South Carolina, East Carolina is a great matchup. I know, guys, we were talking off air that, it's never too early to look ahead to baseball season. And I just, the non-conference schedule for South Carolina and the full schedule dropped. And I'll be honest with you, outside of the Carolina-Clemson series, which I think is the best rivalry in all of college baseball, the non-conference schedule, there's not a whole lot that I look at and I get all that excited about, to be honest with you. I mean, it'll be great to pad the stats and kind of see what you have and rack up the wins. But, I like when the Gamecocks play ECU. I don't care what the sport is. Like you mentioned, I think it's a really cool sort of regional rivalry. And a rivalry doesn't have to have like the level of hatred that Carolina Clemson does. It's probably a better thing that most don't have that level of hatred. But it's just a good, fun, competitive rivalry. Obviously, the ECU fan base, I think is one of the best, in regards to passion and supporting their teams. And, I've got a couple buddies. I didn't go to the football game, obviously last year, but I had a bunch of buddies that went and, they said ECU fans were giving them a little bit of hell, but which is good. It's healthy. So, and we obviously saw, we were talking off air about the super regional and the way that the fans showed up in the jungle. And I've talked to guys that played baseball at South Carolina that played in that regional, 2018, I believe, when the Gamecocks went in there, and then, played back in 2009. They've talked about like how crazy it is, like just the pure madness of playing there. So I think it's a good, fun, competitive thing, no matter the sport. The games also in football, guys, I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, the games always come down to the wire. So, when you're scheduling non-conference, anybody can go schedule kind of that boring whatever, somebody you're going to beat by 50. But I think there's a lot of good, fun competitiveness and like you said, that local rivalry, if you will. So, I'm glad they're playing on the hardwood. I don't recall exactly how long it's been. But it feels like it's been quite a while. But anytime South Carolina and East Carolina square up, I feel like it's a really fun, competitive game, and looking forward to yet another fun one on Saturday.
And taking a look at this ball club, South Carolina is very much like the Pirates in that they have a first-year coach. They're going through a transition. So tell us about that, and then we'll dive into the roster that is highlighted by G.G. Jackson. But first, tell us about Lamont Paris and your impression of him.
Yeah, first-year head coach Lamont Paris. Obviously, the Gamecocks parting ways with Frank Martin after a long stint, and it was a decision that I think most were on board with, but some definitely adamantly disagreed that South Carolina should have brought him back, and maybe some believed that Frank Martin wasn't treated in the greatest way down the stretch. But I think what it boiled down to, guys, was after a decade, you made the tournament one time. And I think really the big kicker was after the Final Four run you had in 2017, there was just no capitalizing on the momentum that you had built, like at all, right? At all. You hadn't even sniffed a tournament since. So I think you couple that. I think you couple it with, again, it's just one of those things where the relationship just sort of ran its course and it was time for some new blood. And you insert Lamont Paris, who, I think Gamecock fans, myself included, we didn't really know a ton about when he was hired, obviously coming over from Chattanooga, and, did great work for them, obviously took them to the tournament. But, a player's coach, very relatable, love listening to him talk about basketball, and he's had success. But, he's sort of a wild card, guys. Let's call it for what it is. I mean, I think this is going to be a work in progress, and you look at the roster, certainly, and, it shows in the roster, right? I mean, your roster was basically gutted from last year's team. So many of those guys hit the transfer portal and left. You do bring in the number one overall player in the country in terms of recruiting in G.G. Jackson, who's arguably the best freshman in all of college basketball and will probably be a lottery pick. Outside of that, it's just sort of a makeshift roster, though. You've got some decent pieces and guys like Hayden Brown, Michi Johnson, the Ohio State transfer. Hayden Brown's a Citadel transfer, but Michi came from Ohio State. Chico Carter and Jacoby Wright are two returners from last year's team that play at the point. That they're both good players. They're solid. What kills this team is depth, though, and we knew that, right? And I think everyone set very, very realistic expectations coming into the season. Understand, hey, it's going to take some time. You got to give Lamont Paris time to build, even with the insertion of G.G. Jackson, and they're going to kind of go as far as, he can take them, right? I mean, even in losses, they lost by, 14 points to UAB Wednesday night. He had 20 points. So night in, night out, he's a lot of fun to watch, and I will say every single game when you're talking about, like, top storylines for South Carolina basketball, he's going to be one to keep an eye on. But, I think this fan base is going to have patience with Lamont Paris. I think, all signs so far, he's a very likable guy, and I think he's won over the fan base at this point. As we all know, guys, it'll come down to winning and losing. That's what it always comes down to. But, I think he will get time. I don't even really think he's going to start being judged on his tenure until I'd probably say year 3 is when you really start kind of evaluating, look and say, okay, we need to see like some real hard progress. And, that's kind of one of the big debates on our side behind closed doors is like, what realistically are the expectations year in, year out for Gamecocks basketball? Because, it's a program that, I think the support level is high. I think Gamecock fans like basketball, but as we were talking off air, guys, at times, if we're being realistic, I feel like it's sort of a program that's put on the back burner, right? Like if you're winning, there's a lot of fan interest, there's a lot of support. But I mean, it's a lot like baseball too, though. It's one of those where, like, if you're not putting a product out there, you're going to have a tough time drawing interest and drawing fan support, a.k.a. attendance. So I believe in Lamont Paris. I'm excited to see what he can do. But, the hire was a bit of a wild card. And, again, he's a very likable guy. And I think so far I like what I've seen in regard to the style and the attitude they play with. And they really play free, play loose, let their shooters shoot. But right now I just think they're lacking the bodies. And that's just something you got to be patient and give Lamont Paris time to build his roster.
As far as G.G. Jackson, he's a Columbia native, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's a local kid. Yep. Mm-hmm. 6'9",
and obviously a matchup concern for East Carolina, as he will be from most teams. At least a lot of the people the Gamecocks will play this year. Mike Schwartz certainly said a lot about him in his comments to the media leading into this. And one of the things that jumps out to me watching him play is just the way he moves at 6'9" and handles the ball, shoots upper 30% from three, and he's averaging 17 and 7.5, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, he's a complete player for sure. I mean, he can do it all. And what I love too is Lamont Paris is just really letting him go play. Like I don't think they're holding him back in any way. They're embracing the fact that, hey, this team kind of revolves around you. Yes, you're the youngest player in college basketball. I believe he is the youngest player, but when you got a guy like that with that talent, that skill set, and that ability, again, you got to kind of just take the training wheels off and let him learn on the fly. And I think they've done that. And I think Lamont Paris has done a really good job too in challenging him and getting the most out of him. I think of the game against Georgetown, a game in which he got shut out in the first half, and Lamont Paris, they said after the game, Lamont Paris approached him at halftime in the locker room and said, hey, that's BS. That's BS. We need more from you. Second half, he goes off for 22 points. The Gamecocks win the game in overtime. So I think Lamont Paris, and I think that's really what year one's about for Lamont Paris, right? Getting the most out of G.G. Jackson, getting him to the next level. And I think that's something you can build off of in recruiting. That's something you can sell to prospects like, hey, look what I did with this kid, right? So, let me just put it this way. If G.G. Jackson has an off night, this team, I believe, just doesn't have a chance to win. Like he's got to play well. And most of the time, the good news is he does play well just because of he's raw. You can tell he's raw, but he's got all the talent and the ability in the world, like I said. And like I said, the way he moves for a guy that's 6'9" and plays really free and loose and can kind of sort of do everything for you. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him grow and develop and evolve. And certainly this will be my first time seeing him in person on Saturday. I'll actually be at the game and really looking forward to seeing what he looks like in person. And because I think he's a guy, we're going to be watching him on TV for quite a long time.
Well, Chris, you can actually hang out with Bubba. Bubba's going to be at the game as well, but I'm sure that will be a lot of fun.
I love it. We'll have to link up. So I actually live in Greenville, South Carolina now. So I'm literally 5 minutes from the arena. So we'll have to link up for sure. Yeah, we'll have to link up.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. My parents will be alongside, and then also a guy named Gabe Nicholas who played for East Carolina back in the early 2000s.
Nice. Okay, very good.
Wanted to ask you about being year one for Coach Paris. What's the style of play for the Gamecocks this year?
I would say offensively, again, it's a very free, loose shooting team. They let their guys shoot, man. There's no fear on the offensive side. And I think a lot of that comes from two guys, like I mentioned before. It's a team that just lacks bigs, lacks that presence down low, but not afraid to pull the three. And that was something that with Frank Martin, I think fans got frustrated with because we knew what the style was. It was sort of that hard-nosed defensive style, like they wanted to win 62-60, you know what I mean? And if we didn't play good defense, we just had no shot. So I think Lamont Paris, he wants to implement, he is implementing a much more offensive-friendly type of system. One that guys that can just, again, they can play confident, play free, play loose, pull the trigger. I mean, G.G. Jackson has the green light constantly. Like he's constantly just jacking it up, which I love it, man. I love it. If you're going to go down shooting. On the defensive end, I think they're still kind of figuring that out. I think they want to be physical, but I think the lack of presence down low is, again, just really killing them. You look at the other night, you look at, what was it, last night, actually, they got outscored 40-26 in the paint. So, I think it's still a work in progress on the defensive side, but, I think an aggressive playing team, an aggressive nature, I think that's what Lamont Paris is striving for. And again, right now, guys, it's just, finding the best five, the most consistent five, or maybe the best four outside of G.G. Jackson, because you know what he's given you, but finding those other guys, finding a big down low, if you can solve those issues, and I think it helps solve sort of the style playing issues. But I think playing free, playing loose, and being aggressive is what I most noticed thus far, just 10 games into his tenure.
Transitioning over and talking a little football, man, what a close to the regular season for the Gamecocks after what was a nightmare of a performance down in the swamp. They bounced back, put up 63 on the Vols there in Columbia, and then do something that hadn't been done in quite a while. And that it's obviously beat the Clemson Tigers. So talk about the season on the whole, and then we'll dive into some of the specifics.
Yeah, what a finish. What a finish, guys. It was absolutely incredible. And, I obviously so notably went on to Went on to social media after the Florida loss, which was a complete embarrassment, and told everyone that Tennessee was just going to do whatever they wanted to South Carolina, beat us by 50 points. I think my final score prediction was 59-13, if I recall correctly, Tennessee winning the game. And I was there in person. And I mean, just one of the most improbable finishes we've ever seen with the back-to-back wins, like you mentioned, over Tennessee, and then Clem sucks and beating them for the first time since 2013, snapping their 40-game home winning streak. You were watching that game against them, and this was their record after leading at halftime. This was their record after leading the third quarter, and you snap all those things. And it's crazy how quickly things can change, right? How quickly things can change from you're sitting at 6-4. You just got embarrassed by Florida. You didn't score a single offensive touchdown to, a couple weeks later, you're 8-4, and there isn't a hotter team in the country. So, and I know some things have happened since the end of the season that I'm sure we'll probably get into that have been a little bit topsy-turvy with the portal, NIL, the OC stuff, all that. But, man, what a season. Year 2 with Shane Beamer. I think you look at it as a whole, and the fact they were able to, overcome adversity, overcome, some things that I think were almost self-inflicted on the offensive side. The fact they were able to navigate around that, get to 8-4. Guys, I talked all preseason. I would have given anything to go 8-4. I would have signed up for 8-4 in a heartbeat. It was what I was picked as well, or what I picked for this team as well. But I would have given anything to go 8-4. And sure enough, you hit that. And, any year you beat Clemson, it's a pretty good year. So, and back-to-back wins over top 10 teams, first time you'd ever done that in school history. So, all in all, I would say it was a successful year too. And what's funny, I think some fans were even left clamoring for more and thinking, what if? Because, guys, 3 of your 4 losses came to teams that finished 6-6. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. If Carolina had been able to figure things out earlier in the season on the offensive side, figure those things out, who knows what could have happened. But all in all, 8-4, chance to win a 9th in a bowl game. If you'd have told anybody that would have been the case, you'd be going to the Gator Bowl, taking on Notre Dame, there isn't a Gamecock fan out there that wouldn't have signed up for that. So, again, guys, all in all, a great season. The finish was incredible, and I think definitely something that Shane Beamer can build on as he continues to elevate his program.
No doubt about it, especially when Shane Beamer actually was one, Bubba. Was that I guess that was 2018 after after East Carolina fired. Was that right?
No, it was 2015 because
okay.
It was when we ended up hiring Scotty Montgomery, and obviously Shane Beamer didn't have some of those things on his resume like that experience with Lincoln Riley, but still that's something I said back then is I would have much rather had Shane Beamer. You looked at the different places he had been in addition to all the experience there with his father, but being at Georgia Tech and then Mississippi State, et cetera, there was just a lot more to like, and just hearing him speak for a few times, I just love love the way he carries himself, and it's easy to see why guys love to play for him.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say he goes to bat for his guys. I mean, you heard it in his latest presser talking about the OC. I mean, he's definitely a player's coach, loyal to his people, loyal to his program, and I mean, again, every time he speaks, you hear that. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to add the fact that I wanted to ask, as far as one of the questions I had was recruiting. And then I was going to ask that, obviously, but you take after those 2 big wins, the guy's a heck of a recruiter. I mean, I don't care what you say about Shane Beamer. The one thing you can't say is that he's a bad recruiter. He got some of the best when he was there before, right? He got some of the best recruits ever in the history of South Carolina football. So talk about that recruiting wise. You guys, I know, are definitely in the familiar more than us. How are things looking for recruiting for this coming season?
Yeah, they look good. And obviously we've got the early signing day next Wednesday, less than a week away. So, these coaches, they're working nonstop around the clock because, when it used to be, it felt like we kind of, got some time off, some time to chill. And we had that signing day in February. It's, it's moved up in December. And no, I mean, Shane Beamer's an elite recruiter, and he understands the importance of it. It's the lifeblood of your program, and I think he does a great job doing it. Does a great job of selling the program because he truly believes in it, and he truly loves the University of South Carolina. And I think, again, that's evident every time he speaks on it. So the recruiting side of things, I'll tell you this, guys, it was something when he was hired I was never really worried about. Like, I was not worried that Shane Beamer would be able to recruit well at USC. Now, obviously, elevating your recruiting, right? Can you push it to the next level? Because realistically, to compete with the the Georgias and the Tennessees and the LSUs and the Bamas and start really competing with the upper echelons, you've got to change your recruiting, right? If 5, 6, 7 years from now we're talking about the Gamecocks in the SEC championship, we're going to look back and say, well, it's because recruiting changed. I mean, that's where it all starts, right? Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's. But I think they're doing a good job. You know, obviously just recently suffered 2 decommits, but I mean, right now, guys, it's just the wild, wild west, man, with the transfer portal, NIL. I mean, Shane Beamer mentioned it yesterday that, hey, we're kind of all going through it right now. I believe the Gamecocks right now sit 18th in recruiting. So I think a top 20 finish would be great. And I think you can expect them yet again. I mean, you saw them last year. You know, Spencer Rattler, Antoine Wells, Christian Beal-Smith, Devontae Reed, Terrell Dawkins, they attacked the transfer portal. I would expect them to do that again, although you haven't heard any names. I think Shane Beamer and company will be very, very active in the transfer portal once again, because I believe Shane Beamer believes in the transfer portal. I know he does. It's obviously evident at this point. So, no, recruiting's going well. I think when you look at this class they're about to bring in, and they're going to continue to build it, but it's line of scrimmage heavy. They are focused on beefing up the offensive and defensive line, which makes a lot of sense, right? SEC's a line of scrimmage league. You know, we talk about spread offenses and these skilled playmakers, and that's great and all, but if you can't move the man in front of you, if you can't throw a block, if you can't rush the passer, if you can't stop the run, you can't run the football, you just don't have a chance in the SEC, right, on a week-in, week-out basis. So it's still a physicality league. It's still a line of scrimmage league. They know that. That's where a lot of the recruiting is focused. And, again, I would expect them to use the portal yet again to go out and get some more playmakers, especially on the outside, go get some DBs probably. I think they've also got a bunch of young DBs already on the roster. I think they'll go attack linebacker in the portal, maybe D-line. I mean, anybody that can really help them. I think Shane Beamer's open to it. And, you know, one of their biggest recruiting jobs right now is trying to get Spencer Rattler to come back next year. I think that's Dowell Loggins mentioned that that was one of his top priorities, is try to convince Spencer Rattler to stay another year. But no, all in all, man, recruiting is something I'm always going to have confidence in. Shane Beamer makes it a priority. He knows how important it is. And I'd say he's a pretty damn good recruiter in his own light. So, yeah, I would say recruiting is going very well, and I would expect it to continue to do so.
Now, Chris,
Bubba, we've lost your audio for some reason. But Johnny Robertson, he goes by JR, said should be an interesting Gator Bowl depth chart for the Gamecocks, especially at tight end. Like many other teams, this time of year, there seems to be plenty of attrition issues.
Yeah, tight end's going to be interesting. I mean, I was just thinking in my head who's going to play tight end, and I have to really rack my brain for a second, because no Jaheim Bell, no Austin Stogner, no Trey Kenyon, which were your top 3 guys. I mean, you look, maybe a guy like a Xavier Short, the freshman, gets an opportunity. Chad Terrell's been out for the year with an injury, so I don't really know. I don't really know who they go with, to be honest with you. It'll be interesting, and it's something that every team is battling at this point. Every team's battling the transfer portal thing, and if you're not in the playoff, guys are opting out. They're getting ready for the draft, and more power to them. But yeah, it's. I mean, again, it's these. I really, guys, I'll tell you on a side note, I feel for these college coaches. I really do, because they've already got so much pressure on them. They've already got so much on their plate. Then you add in what the portal and NIL bring in that madness, and then you're trying to get your team ready to play a bowl game, and then you got the early signing day. And, I mean, it's just – I mean, they've got – I don't know how they even have time to breathe. Like, I really don't. It's crazy. So, anyways, you know, I expect Shane Beamer, again, they'll put together a game plan, and that they'll find guys. They'll go play with their best 22, and Notre Dame will do the same, and I know they've had some opt-outs to them as well. So I know Gamecock Nation's excited for the game either way, but like JR mentioned, just the battle of attrition is real on both sides for sure.
No doubt about it. And I know with JR, he also had another question that we can bring up here for you with Step, and is it Loggins?
Yes, Dowell Loggins. Yes,
Loggins. Yep.
And I know how absurd his name sounds. Trust me, I've been joking about that for over a week. Like, it sounds like a fake name. Like, it really does. I don't know. It's one of the weirder names. I don't know. Whatever. Either way.
I'm trying to get used to it. With them being on staff, do you anticipate some players relocating from Fayetteville, being the University of Arkansas, to Columbia for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, the top one right now I would say is Trey Knox, the tight end, which would be a huge pickup. I think when you look at him and his skill set, somewhat resembles a Jaheim Bell, and you just lost him in the portal. So I think he'd be a great replacement for you. Trey Knox was a guy when the Gamecocks played at Arkansas in week 2. We were talking about and breaking down and talking about how much he was a matchup nightmare for you, and a guy that started out at wide receiver, transitioned to tight end, put on some weight. So I think he could be a great addition for you. If Spencer Rattler comes back, he's another great big-time target for him. And I think there could be some others. I don't have any names right now, but there have been some rumors that Loggins could be bringing some other guys with him. So, and Loggins is a great recruiter in his own right, too. So there might be some guys that he was talking to that he can sway over to the Gamecock side. But I would definitely expect a couple of Arkansas guys from that offensive group, especially the ones that played under Loggins. Hey, maybe a couple other tight ends, but definitely Trey Knox and maybe a few others to join him in Columbia as well.
As far as we also wanted to ask, who will call plays with Satterfield moving on to Nebraska?
So Shane Beamer has said he's not telling anybody. So they're keeping it a secret. If I had to guess, I think it will be a team effort, a joint effort between Freddie Kitchens, Justin Stepp. I mean, I think Shane Beamer will be involved. But he's made it clear they're not going to say anything, which makes a lot of sense because, why give your opponent any sort of indication of who's going to call plays where they can try to kind of dig and go back. Did this guy ever call plays before? If he did, what does it look like? So, maybe keep Notre Dame guessing a little bit. And, but there's a lot of speculation on who called plays, how much of the plays did Satterfield actually call in the final 2 weeks. And from everybody I've talked to, he did call the plays, but there was a lot of help from guys like Freddie Kitchen, Shane Beamer, Justin Stepp as well. So I would expect a group effort, and I think they'll try to do a lot of the same things they obviously did over the last 2 weeks. And but yeah, Shane Beamer is keeping the lips sealed on who the play caller will be for the bowl game.
Speaking of the bowl game, the Gator Bowl, Jacksonville, the first time I know you said you've gone to Florida. So talk about that, about the experience. What are you guys hearing about maybe some festivities down there, maybe some of our friends that are in the Jacksonville area that maybe could come to the game?
Yeah, and I think Gamecocks Online just posted like an itinerary, so they are doing some different stuff. Thursday, I know I'll get down there Wednesday, so we'll be down there Wednesday through Saturday, come back Saturday, obviously New Year's Eve. But on Thursday, which is the 29th, they are throwing like a pep rally at 6:15. Gamecock band will be out there, and it's going to be Notre Dame and South Carolina. So Notre Dame will go first. The Gamecocks will be up there with their cheerleaders, band, stuff like that. Pretty cool pep rally. I think there's a concert as well the night before the game. And then we're throwing a tailgate the day of the game with our good friends over at Carolina Cigars. One of our business partners will be out there in Lot J, right outside of the stadium, 11 till kickoff. But, yeah, like I was telling you, man, it's the first time the Gamecocks have been to the Gator Bowl since the late 80s. And it's the first time I've ever been to a Florida bowl game. Like I was saying off air, I've been to 2 bowl games, and they were both in Charlotte, North Carolina. And one of them was really good, and the other one was horrific, and we never speak of it again. But, no, I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, it's as much fun as like last year was. I think we've definitely got some Charlotte fatigue, which I say that it's so funny because we're literally going back there next year to open the season against the North Carolina Tar Heels again. So I think our fan base has got a little bit of fatigue going there. So to go to a different venue and to play an opponent like Notre Dame, it wouldn't matter what bowl you're in. You're playing Notre Dame, such a historical college football program. And it'll be really cool. I think the Gamecock fan base will travel extremely well. Gamecock football tweeting out they had sold out their allotment of tickets. So I know this fan base is really excited. I'm excited, looking forward to it one last time to watch the boys strap it up. And again, you go into that game with tons of momentum. I know the transfer portals hit you, but on-field momentum, you certainly have it. And what a win it would be to get your 9th win against such a historical program like a Notre Dame.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my dad's cousin, he's like an uncle to me. I'm very close to him. He's talked since it happened. I remember being a little boy about that's one of the coldest times ever in his life was at the Gator Bowl. He's a big UNC fan, and he went down there. It was early 80s, and he froze during that game, literally. It was very, very cold. So I don't know what the forecast is going to be for you guys down there, but you may want to dress warm.
I hope it's good weather, man. I'm prepared, but I would love just an unseasonal 75 or something. You know what I mean? I would love that. So I don't know. We'll see. It was funny you say that. Last year I recall because I wore a tank top I wore a tank top to the bowl game last year. So
Wow.
just to give you an indication on the weather, that game in Charlotte. So I'd love more of the same for that one, no doubt.
Let's talk some baseball before we let you go. I know you've been generous as always with us. I know you're looking forward to it. And again, if we can get Coach Tanner, the AD at Columbia at South Carolina, John Gilbert, well, actually, it will be in this particular case the two baseball coaches. But I love for that. I love for us to play some baseball together. And by the way, I was going to tell you, if you ever want to come up and experience Clark LeClaire, I'll get you in for sure.
Dude, I would love to. And you know, you make a great point that, you know, again, we were talking off air, but I think it's a no-brainer. South Carolina and East Carolina should play in a non-conference series. I think it would be a lot of fun. You know, go back and forth, home and away. Obviously, two fantastic ballparks. You got Founders Park in Columbia, and then you guys ballpark up there in Greenville. What's it called again? What's y'all's ballpark?
Clark LeClaire Stadium.
Clark LeClaire. Okay. Clark. Really nice park from what I've heard. I've never been, obviously, but yeah, I mean, this baseball season, man. I mean, everybody knows I'm a baseball guy. You know, I love Carolina basketball because I love the Gamecocks, but baseball definitely hits differently for me. Obviously, played it in college, and I'm just extremely. I'm as passionate about Carolina baseball as I am Carolina football, to be honest with you. And I'm looking forward to this season. You know, we haven't dove into really deep in regards to breaking down the roster or giving any predictions or stuff like that, but we will start doing that probably mid-January. And going to be a new look team this year. You know, you add Monty Lee over from Clemson, the head coach. He comes over to your program now, an assistant head coach, if you will. And the Gamecocks have one of the better pitching staffs in the SEC, and it all come down to hitting, which it feels like it always does. And a huge year for Mark Kingston. I think this is kind of his make or break year in Columbia. I think the Gamecocks, it might be super regional or bust for Mark Kingston, if you will. The expectations will be high, as they always are for South Carolina, as they should be. But I'm looking forward to it personally, guys, because, again, I don't live in Columbia anymore, but we will be hitting the road more than a couple of times this year for some road series. The series in Athens is always a good time. We'll go to Carolina Clemson, of course. I'll go to, at minimum, the game in Greenville, South Carolina, up here at Floor Field on that Saturday, game 2. But South Carolina plays at Arkansas, at Mississippi State. So really excited to check out a couple of the best ballparks in college baseball. And you know, college baseball season again, guys, for all those that love it, it's just truly a blast and a blessing. And it's incredible to watch. And I still think people, and I know y'all would agree, sleep on college baseball and how much fun it is and the entertainment value. And I think it's very undercovered. It's very under televised. And so people like yourself, you know, I like to think people like myself, and I got friends like Ben Upton over at 11.7 and what Kendall Rogers and Aaron Fitt do with D1baseball.com. These outlets, these entities, they do such a great job of bringing more and more light to the game of college baseball, and they should, man, because it's must-see TV, and, you know, especially getting to those midweeks and some of, like, the wackiest things happen. But no, it's a blast, man, and looking forward to it. And, you know, just hoping South Carolina will get back to the Gamecocks baseball that I know and love, because this past year, man, I mean, you guys know, and I'm sure it's been a while since ECU's had a down year, but when you're not good in baseball, it's a long season. I mean, it drags too when you're not good. But, you know, what a ride it is when you got a real team like last year for you guys, where you know that you're going to make a run. And I know that Godwin's looking to get his Pirates to the first, you know, to the College World Series for the first time. And I got a weird sneaking suspicion that y'all are getting pretty close. I know last year was right there knocking on the door. So, it's going to be a fun season, man. I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to diving into everything. And, you know, I think this Gamecocks baseball team, there's some real potential there. And if they can swing it, man, I think they'll be a real threat to go deep into the postseason.
Well, it's going to be fun.
Now, Chris,
yeah, Bubba.
I guess I was somehow in earlier. I guess I was somehow in football mode. But somehow, even as closely as I follow college baseball, I had missed that with Monty Lee after getting fired at Clemson, coming over to Coach Kingston's staff.
Yes, he is on the staff now. Yeah, he's serving as a assistant head coach, hitting coach, if you will. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic, no doubt. I mean, Mark Kingston's your head coach for sure, but you practically have head coach A, head coach B. And it's no secret that Mark Kingston's on the hot seat and that Mark Kingston's job is on the line. So, it's great to get Coach Lee back in Columbia, though. For those that may have missed it, obviously he was a Gamecock first. Served on Ray Tanner's staff for quite a long time, was part of some of the, was part of those Murderers Row lineups with Justin Smoke, Reese Havens, Phil Disher, James Darnell, some of the ones that played East Carolina, right, in that 09 season, played them in 07, right, some of those lethal lineups. So to get Monty Lee back, I mean, I'm a huge Monty Lee guy. I played ball with guys that played for him, that were recruited by him, and they got nothing but glowing reviews about him. So glad to see him back for sure.
And the one other thing I had, Dave, one other thing that I had, since Chris brought up playing games in Charlotte, it's absolutely ridiculous when you see North Carolina and South Carolina playing in a game that should be sold out, and there's 50,000 in attendance with that many empty seats at Bank of America Stadium because they charge these ridiculous ticket prices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time you play in Charlotte, you can expect it to be well overpriced. So, yeah, I love the city of Charlotte. I lived there for 4 years, and I mean, I'm not saying it's not a cool game, but like, for example, I've never been to UNC's campus. Like, I'd love to go. I mean, it's just, you can't beat a home and home. Like, see, I'm someone that, like, I love the unique non-conference matchups. Like South Carolina, I don't know if you guys knew this. I don't think it's till like 26 or 27, but they're going to Boone to play App State. I can't wait. Like, I cannot wait to make a road trip out of that. And I know that might make East Carolina fans a little pissed off because for some reason we try to duck you guys, I think, every now and then. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
we don't want to play. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, in fact, when that game, I remember very well when that field goal with last year with the South Carolina. I literally was near the coaches as they were running off, and they were literally like so relieved they won that game,
Yeah.
And but I just remember that. And as far as Boone, I think it comes down. I'll tell you what it comes down to, Chris. I'll be honest. I think a lot of Pirate Nation feels like that Appalachian State was like the Pirates of the 90s. We had a lot of big wins and all that. I think that it comes down to scheduling, and you've got to have an athletic. Look at the athletic director. Bubba, help me out. But the athletic director in Boone with App State, he's been scheduling a lot of great games. He's had North Carolina come there. The University of Miami has come to Boone.
Yeah.
We're having the first time in a long time we're going to be at Boone next year. This coming season.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did in the 70s, way back when, the Pirates were AA, SoCon days and that kind of thing. But I think with that, we just need to have someone that can schedule the North Carolinas, the NC States. I don't think Duke has an interest of playing because they're looking to get bowl eligible, and they actually have a great coach now in Mike Elko. So I'm happy for them. But when it comes down to what's your question, I think that, we should be playing South Carolina. There's a lot of regional rivalries and regional teams, the Marshalls of the world, West Virginia, South Carolina. And in fact, I don't think we've ever played Clemson ever, not that I know of, not to my knowledge, unless it was way, way back before my time. But those kind of games are the ones we're missing out on. But anyway, do you have anything before we let you go, man? I know I'm looking at the time and we're a long.
Yeah. Now I was going to say you this, man. I know you offered the East Carolina baseball experience at Clark LeClaire Stadium, bro. I'm already looking at the schedule, and I tell you what looks juicy. That Friday, Saturday against North Carolina, man. I think that'd be a fun one to come check out. I'm sure that'll be a hot ticket.
Oh yeah,
very hot ticket.
Well, if you do, I'll make some phone calls, and I want tickets too. So
I'm sure the jungle will be popping for that weekend. So
oh man, I tell you, that's what I was going to tell you is that North Carolina State, Duke, those ACC schools, Bubba can tell you that some of them don't want to play us, and in the past, and I want to get into that, but there's no doubt when East Carolina plays those ACC schools, if we go there an away game or a home game, it's a sellout without question.
Oh yeah,
and football too. Anytime you want to come to a football game, let us know. We got you there too, right, Bubba?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Yeah. Well, appreciate you coming on, man. How can people follow your work? We appreciate your show and everything.
Yeah, man. So at the Spurs Up Show, everywhere you can think, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. We're on YouTube, thespursupshow.com. We've also got a store, tsus.store. You can find all our merchandise there. Of course, podcast drops Monday, Wednesday, Friday on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcast. And then our live show, The Daily Crow, airs Monday through Friday, noon to 2 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You don't have to be a Gamecock fan, by the way, to tune in and enjoy. We have Georgia people calling in, troll all the time. We have, unfortunately, Clemson people call in, Tennessee. Just every fan base, man. We've had Texas fans calling before. You'd be really surprised. But it's a really good time, man. It's a lot of fun, and especially the daily live show. People call in, and sometimes those combos go off the rails a little bit, which makes it even more fun. But, yeah, man, the Spurs Up Show anywhere and everywhere you can think, and we have a blast doing it. And, again, I appreciate you guys, Dave, Bubba, you guys having me on. And, again, looking forward to a fun game on Saturday, and I'll definitely be in touch with y'all about getting up to Greenville because, like I mentioned, I'd love to come check it out. I've heard nothing but good things, and I know you guys like to have a good time, so I want to come see for myself. But, I appreciate it.
No, Bubba, tell them how much that jungle is rocking.
Oh yeah, I mean, he saw it, but got a lot of comments from unbiased observers. Both in attendance and just watching it on TV, and they said they couldn't believe the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, really loud. Chris, man, thank you so much, and look forward to hopefully seeing you soon. And if you want those tickets, let me know. We'll hook you up.
Yeah, boys, I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Have a good night, my friend.
Yeah, man. Y'all too.
All right, take care. All right, appreciate Chris Phillips there of the Spurs Up Show. Does a great job. And speaking of doing a great job, Bubba, this guy is tremendous. A huge fan. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, from the Daily Reflector. Hopefully, Patrick, have you made your deadline? Are we keeping you from your deadline, my friend? Let's see if we can.
Hold on. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go. You're on mute.
There we go. What's up, guys?
Last time I saw you at the basketball game, I'm afraid. Are we keeping you from deadline? Or are you good?
No, it should be good.
Okay.
But yeah, that newspaper deadline is no fun.
So Patrick, with the fact that
I find a good spot where the light doesn't kill me.
Yeah, it's like a lightsaber.
yeah, the light's dividing your face in two.
Right?
The fact that like writers sometimes have writer's block. You covering all the sports, I'm worried for the opposite. Like you're going, oh my God, like overload. Like what story should I write today? Is that what you're in now, or is it? I mean, how can you have writer's block this time of year for Empire Nation?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, there's football happened, at least the bowl game. You got both basketball games, and that's the really big thing is the overlap. It's like you got basketball one day, you got to talk to Coach Schwartz one day, you got basically just a lot going on. So yeah, honestly, writer block only hits me when I think I have a great idea. I go to the post game interviews, I hear all these quotes and go, oh man, what do I write about? How do I start this thing? So
Now, Patrick, obviously, one of the things you're writing about right now is East Carolina football and the Pirates. Here in about a week and a half, we'll be taking on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers for the first time in football down in Birmingham in the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl. So before we talk about that matchup with the Chanticleers, and Pirates go 7-5 for a second straight season, what was your take on the 2022 Pirates?
Man, all right. So I feel like a lot of my columns this year, because I was going through them the other day, a lot of them they sort of had the vibe of like, hey, this is a good football team, but at the same time, there's so much left on the table, right? Like I feel like when you kind of look back at this year, maybe say in 10 years, people are gonna be like, man, remember that 2022 football team? Really talented, and yeah, they went 7-5. Yeah, they made a bowl game, but man, they could have been 10-3 or 9-4, and there's so much left on the table. I feel like where this year was a good season, but it was also just kind of a man, we were so close kind of season. Does that make sense? Does that sort of kind of feel accurate?
For me, Patrick, I was going to say that what it feels like for me is exactly that. It's like what could have been, what should have been, that sort of thing. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. but also the fact that but what I'm seeing it as is like, like the team that's on the verge of greatness, like a
Yeah.
season that will blow our mind. Like, I'm not saying next year, so don't misunderstand. People think that I'm like, like as far as being optimist, ultimate optimist, but it's like one of those things where the 1990 season, or like Bubba said, one of those seasons right before the Skip Holtz era with the championships back to back in Conference USA. It just has that feeling like these are the guys that laid down the foundation for the future, that, wow, that we're going to win double-digit wins, maybe a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm just throwing things out there. Like, that's the way I get what you're saying, but the feeling I have is in Pirate Nation is like we're on the verge of something special. I don't know if it's next year or the year after, but I just that's my gut feeling is that's what hurts the most, is when you think we shouldn't have lost to NC State. The Navy game, are you kidding me? The coach is now fired. Like there's several games in there that we should have won, we didn't.
Yeah.
And I guess it works both ways. There are games like the Memphis game we maybe should not have won that we won.
Yeah, exactly. Football is kind of like that, right? Where, like you said, the Memphis game, that could easily go the other way, and then you're looking at some disaster sort of scenario. But I guess my thing is like, you had the quarterback this year. Who knows what Mason Garcia could be phenomenal. But the thing is, like, you had the quarterback, and that's the biggest thing about football, right? Like, you have this guy you can sort of trust. He knows what's happening, and now is the year you go make a move. But I also understand at the same time is like success for this program is making another bowl game. It's continuing the success. If you get if you go 6-6, you're like, what did we just do? So getting that last win in Temple is huge. Like I said, playing for the future, and yeah, you got to keep building on this thing. But like you said, I mean, this is it's a good season. These seniors did set out to do what they set out to do, which is great. You just gotta, you gotta figure it out and kind of find a way to build on this. And it'll probably be difficult, but at the same time, it's like you did lay that foundation. There is a baseline of success in this season now, or for this team now, which hasn't been there for years. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you talk about Holton Ahlers, excellent senior season for Holton, and hopefully he and the guys will be able to go out with that 8th win, winning 8 games for the first time since 2014. But one of the things that really stood out about Holton's performance this year, the last 6 games after the Pirates were 3-3, we were coming off a game where we had lost down in New Orleans to a Tulane team that's in the Cotton Bowl, 10-2, or I guess 11-2 now, and Holton and the guys, they did not turn the ball over in the final 6 games, and I don't remember another 6-game stretch in my 30 years of watching, or 30 plus years of watching East Carolina football, where we did not turn the ball over.
Like, no team does that, which is so incredible, right? Like, you can look at the professional team, you can look at any college team. No team just goes for that long of a stretch without turning the ball over. So that was incredible. I mean, I think the offense really showed up this year. I mean, there's a lot of times where the defense gave up so many passing yards and just a lot of points sometimes. And I mean, there's also some games, sure, where, I think it was Tulane, right? We scored 9 points. Yeah, you can kind of blame that on the offense, but there was so many times, like you said, where the offense is just really competent. They're scoring points, they're moving the ball like you should move the ball, and yeah, I mean that was incredible to see, because like you said, that doesn't happen often, and to not turn the ball over for that long, I mean that's incredible. That's really hard to do.
No doubt about it. And Patrick, with this season now, with you have the unlimited practices for the Pirates, are getting valuable reps. Another great thing about the bowl is these guys have time off where they can heal. I think that's going to be interesting to see as far as there's guys that obviously there's a difference between being hurt and injured. Injured to me is somebody that can't really play. Hurt is what football players are. They're going to be banged up this time of year, but it's going to be interesting to see how well these guys can hold up for a bowl game. You have a lot of storylines too for you. Grayson McCall, something I didn't know. I thought, this is my ignorance on this whole thing because it's such a new thing with the transfer portal. I thought once you declared for the transfer portal that you wouldn't be able to play for your team and now all of a sudden you can play
Right.
for your team, you can declare, you can play for the team. It's just crazy.
Yeah, the whole transfer portal thing is nuts. But it's also, like you said, it's weird that you can say, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be here next year, but also I'm going to play for you one more time." And I feel like the whole point, like if you're going in the transfer portal, a lot of the times you're saying, "I'm going to stay healthy for either the draft, I'm not happy with my playing time, or I just want to stay healthy for another team." And this kid says, "Hey, I want to leave, but at the same time, I really want to play," which it kind of goes against everything, right? That the transfer portal kind of stands for. And I don't know. For me, I think it's kind of neat because I think the whole point of these bowl games is you just want players to play. You kind of want all these players. I mean, there's some bowl games that are going out there that are like neither starting quarterback is playing. There's no skill position players playing, and you're kind of like, what's the point of this game? So I don't know. It's odd, but I kind of like that he's playing. It seems like a weird thing, but I kind of like that he's playing, but also saying, hey, I'm going to go try something else.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the game from that standpoint. But it's something that we asked Chad Staggs and the interim head coach and defense coordinator for Coastal about when we talked to him a couple days ago, and he said it was just a situation where, with all he's accomplished there, he being Grayson McCall, three-time Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, and the respect that he had of his teammates, that they were good with it. But um, you know, each situation is differently, and we don't know all the variables. But you had East Carolina starting center Avery Jones, who had played the majority of the snaps for the Pirates at that position, choose to enter the portal, and he's ended up at Illinois. But had he not gone ahead and progressed with that as he did, it would have been very odd him playing in the game and then moving on to Illinois or wherever.
Yeah, it definitely would have been weird. And even like Ryan Jones said he's leaving to focus on the NFL. And yeah, it's gonna be weird. And even like we're gonna watch ECU in a couple of weeks here, and Avery Jones isn't gonna be under center, so Holton Ahlers is gonna get new snaps from somebody else. So it's gonna look weird. Like the whole thing about this transfer portal and just the bowl games in general, it's been really weird. You know what I'm saying? Like the last couple of weeks where there's a lot of players that you're used to seeing who just aren't going to play, or in like Grayson McCall's situation is he's going to say, "Hey, I'm also leaving, but can I play one more game?" Like can I stick around? And so it's definitely kind of an odd situation for these bowl games, but I guess it is what it is, and it's kind of the new normal. We're all going to have to kind of figure out how to dance around a little bit.
What I don't, yeah, what I don't understand about the whole Ryan Jones thing is, okay, you come back, you're a Charlotte kid, you're Oklahoma, you come back, you could have played in a game last year, which is not his fault with Boston College. And I'm going, okay, you can actually get hurt. Players get hurt actually at the NFL Combine. You have to obviously be invited to the Combine. Do I think he has NFL talent? Of course. But there's a lot of guys we have on our team that has NFL talent that never make it. So it's really difficult. It's not as easy as opting out, working out. I can work
Right.
out with Patrick at the Y, and I'm going to make as great as I am. I'm just saying that I'm not really that great, and I'm old. But it's not going to happen. So not to say they won't happen for him. I'm just saying that these young people of today need to be careful of listening to certain people. Grandma might tell you you're great to win American Idol. That doesn't mean you're going to win American Idol. Grandpa might
Yeah.
tell you you're good enough to make the NFL. That doesn't mean that you're going to make the NFL. And I just worry for guys like him. I don't want to sound like get off my lawn, an 80-year-old man. I understand why they're doing it. But at the same time, I wonder, like, you could have an amazing game in that bowl game and it could help your draft status. And maybe that might be the edge, Patrick. That's what I was going to say. For the difference of you making the NFL and not is a really big bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that aspect where you can say, "Hey, I can score 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and have a good game." I mean, because I mean, I'm sure you guys were there too, but for the pro days, I'm thinking about last year, Tyler Snead and Jaquan McMillan, and I'm thinking what DJ Ford and all these guys. I'm watching their pro day, and yeah, they're doing these cone drills and blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, a lot of them just go undrafted. I mean, it's very competitive to get drafted. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult. It's not like saying, "All right, I'm gonna, forego this game and I'm gonna sign to the team. Like that's just not how it works, right? Like you gotta. I think a lot of your tape, like you were mentioning earlier, a lot of your tape tells you what these teams are gonna think about you. I mean, one pro day is gonna do what for you, you know? So maybe if you just got to keep adding to your tape and keep adding to your skill set. I don't think some cone drill is really going to change the team's mind, but maybe if you kind of go off against a good defensive back or have a really good game, I mean, that can always help you more, I think, than some of this other stuff. But the transfer portal is what it is. It's just an opportunity for these kids to say, hey, I might not be playing right now, but I'm going to try to play, I guess, and maybe it's at a different level, but I just want to play. And I guess that's at the root of it. That's just what sports is. Kids just want to play, and we're kind of in an odd spot, especially when kids start, opting out of bowl games. They're kind of in a weird spot right now, and it just is what it is.
Going back to the situation at center, I asked Mike Houston at today's Birmingham Bowl press conference, what the plans were there, who it looked like would get the start, and not surprisingly, as had been the case in other press conferences where he was asked by other members of the media, just when they were discussing what the plans were there at center, he was very non-committal, just addressing it in very general terms.
Yeah, yeah. I think we talked to him that at least the media availability we had when we were in person with him, he was essentially saying, we're only going to talk about the players that are here. I mean, which is fine. I mean, that's what coach speak is. You talk about the players you have, and yeah. And I'm honestly kind of curious what they are going to do at center, and I wonder if it's going to be. I think the real question we all have to ask ourselves is it going to be a long-term solution, or is it going to be a kind of a stopgap for one game, and then we'll reassess in the offseason kind of situation? And that's kind of really the question I'm kind of looking forward to answering in the future, because I think a lot of these bowl games, you're gonna see some different players in different spots, and I think the real question is this a player we can count on in the future, or do we have to kind of juice this up and with it transfer portal or the signings?
I just really hope it doesn't lead to we've been very good in the penalty department this year, and hope it doesn't lead to some false starts. And then also, obviously, the center makes a lot of calls along the offensive line there with the quarterback. So at least you have a veteran signal caller that can help out with that kind of thing. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't rear its head as it could.
No doubt. And the fact that Avery Jones did us a favor by announcing his leaving, which gave us enough time to at least have some attempt. It's not like this week or next week, saying bye. Right. And also, by the way, for fans listening about Ryan Jones, I will say this, that I was disappointed. He's one of the players that I'm trying to be careful the way I say it, but he's one of the players that was not happy with his senior day and the fact all the attention on Holton. And there's been some hard feelings about that's one of the things I was going to talk to you about, Patrick, is generically speaking, there's been some hard feelings with Holton Ahlers getting a lot of NIL deals. It's something as soon as the NIL thing came down, we have no issues with the players getting paid because they are bringing money into the program, and they're entrepreneurs, and just like all of us can get paid for a gig, they should be as well. But we mentioned early on in those talks about the NIL, would it be, we brought up the example too, would it be any kind of like pushback? Would there be any kind of hard feelings for, say, an offensive lineman or D lineman when you have the kid from Greenville? But that's the thing. He's a local kid. That's why he's getting a lot of NIL deals. It has nothing to do with them. And it's just disappointing for me for them to be so hard on Holton and that. So
I get when you're talking about that, I just couldn't help but smiling. I mean, for a little while, I'll start with this. For a little while, I covered some high school football, and no matter what, like if the running back scores touchdowns or if the quarterback throws touchdowns, people are going to talk to him. People are worried about that. We're going to talk to this person. Like I feel like you just have to go into this if you're a football player, you have to understand that the quarterback, whether
Yes.
right or wrong, handles all of these responsibilities. And if you're upset as a player that this person is getting attention or getting NIL deals, well, he does a lot for the team, and not only just for the football team. I mean, he handles responsibilities that you don't have to. Like Holton Ahlers talk to us every single week after every game, win or lose. Holton Ahlers is
Yeah.
standing up there. I mean, we're not talking to an offensive lineman every single game. Like I said, win or lose, has a great game. He plays terrible. Holton Ahlers is standing up there and saying, "Hey guys, here's my thoughts on this game. Either I screwed it up, I helped this win." Like he's up there answering questions, and I think that goes a lot. That goes a long way for both the public perception of like you're kind of the face of the program, right, as a quarterback, and also just in the community. I mean, the quarterback of the football team gets all of this shine, whether you like it or not. I mean, you can be an awesome tight end and you can get your due, but it's just never going to be as important as the quarterback, which is probably the most important position in all of sports, honestly. Like if you're a good quarterback, you make your team shine. Like it's just what it is.
Yeah, like you're saying, from all I can gather, from afar, it seems like Holton Ahlers has handled this about as well as you could, as far as the being in the spotlight and the NIL deals on the built when broken, and doing what he can to get his teammates a slice of the pie and get some money in their pocket.
Yeah, and even just not even from that aspect, like yeah, you can definitely do that, but I just feel like if you're the quarterback, right or wrong, you're getting the shine. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost as simple as that. Where like, you know, it's you. It's your football team. Like I think it's as simple as that. Like quarterback is going to get the lion's share of the praise and a lion's share of the fault. And what comes with that, comes good. And sometimes you're going to get scathed, and it is what it is.
And I would like to, and I'm not trying to make this about, I really like Ryan Jones, so let me make that very clear.
Yeah.
But the one question I would ask, the tough question I would ask Ryan Jones is, Ryan, when have you ever had the criticism that Holton Ahlers has gotten? Mike, he's gotten more criticism than Mike Houston.
Right.
And he's been at the lowest point. You want to, and Ryan, let me tell you this also, Ryan. You actually left a school. Holton could have left. Holton could have signed. Even Alabama called him at the 11th hour. So all these people that like that Holton, I'm not trying to defend Holton or beat up here, but the one thing I will say is that you were talking about, the quarterback. He got a lot of criticism throughout his career that was sometimes maybe justified, but most of the time it was not. And his dad's a heck of a guy, to the point of people saying the only reason he was playing is because his dad was a PA announcer, which is so not true. If you know anything about Mike Houston. So it's just funny how the crazy comments have been made by, and Patrick, how much I love our fan base, and I'm an alum. But for people to be sulking and not playing a bowl game, I'm sorry, I'm gonna call you out. I'm doing my Matt Simmons impersonation, one of the other co-hosts on here. Just because you didn't get the love you felt like you deserved, and now you're playing, that's fine, because he's a senior and I get it. But I just think it's crazy that you're not going to play. You've worked your tail off at a school. Last year you had the disappointment because Boston College pulled out and didn't play the game. And now you have a chance to really end I don't think another thing is our kids of today are not thinking about the legacy, Patrick. We're getting ready to talk about basketball, but you take a Jaden Gardner. Jaden Gardner was like breaking all kinds of records. He leaves, and yeah, he's done all right at Virginia, but he it's the big fish in a small pond, kind of thing. He could be the big fish, But anyway, I don't want to ramble on about that. Let's talk about basketball coming up on Saturday, which is confusing because it's not Greenville, North Carolina. It's Greenville, South Carolina. They're in the upstate as the Pirates are taking on the Gamecocks. I'm really excited about it because, as we're talking about our previous guest, I feel like that Pirate Nation, the Pirates, we love playing South Carolina. It's a regional rivalry. It's not the Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina kind of rivalry, or East Carolina, NC State rivalry, but it's got a great feel anytime you can play the Gamecocks.
Yeah, it's like a big team that kind of feels gettable. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely an exciting matchup, and I'm I'm really excited about this basketball team. I think what are they, 7-4, 7-3? But I think they're really exciting, honestly. Just the way that Mike Schwartz kind of talks about this stuff, and I think the most interesting thing about this team is that Mike Schwartz came in talking about defense, and the defense is not there whatsoever. Like that is probably the biggest lacking part about this whole team. But they've been able to score like in the 80s, like all the time. So I think it's kind of a unique spot where like I almost wonder if Mike Schwartz is kind of like, all right, like this is kind of what I'm seeing, and I don't know if I expected this. Like I'm almost think he's kind of rolling with it like we are, because that's all we heard coming into the preseason was defense, defense, defense. We're gonna have these guys playing great defense. And we have, honest to be fair, we have not seen that through 11, 12 games this year.
Yeah, and the thing that 7-4 Pirates, the interesting thing, and I want to look at that. The neutral site, they're 2-1 and 0-2. Obviously, the way is obviously a concern, but it's very difficult to win on the road. But the neutral site thing, I just have, maybe I'm too optimistic again. I got a good feeling about Saturday, Patrick. I really do. I think we have a shot at the game, and that's all you can ask for in any game is
Yeah.
you and I are not going, well, Dave, this is going to be a long night, my friend. Buckle up. It's actually a game where the Pirates could really win. It's going to be a competitive ball game.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's really just like Javon Small. I can keep looking at him. He's leading the team in scoring. It's like 18 points a game. And if you look at him last year, he was just a guy. Like he was a guy who just appeared on the court for like some garbage time stuff. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my goodness, he can hit step backs, he can drive the lane. Like, oh my goodness, where did he come from? Ezra Asar, incredible. I mean, the freshman, he is that dude knows what he's doing. Like if he is a guy who's really smart on the court. So if he has the ball, he just recognizes a mismatch, he takes him to the hole. There's so many times where I've watched East Carolina basketball and I'm saying like for instance last year, I'm looking at Vance Jackson, it's just a physical specimen. I'm saying, man, just take this dude to the rack or do something. But
Yeah.
Ezra does that, right? Like Ezra just goes, like I'm almost like, was it innocent enough or naive enough to just say, who cares? I'm a freshman. I'm just gonna go to the rim and I'm gonna do something. Like he had 18 points in 22 minutes or something last week. But he does keep fouling out. But there are those points in this basketball team where it's like Javon Small, like a revelation, Ezra, a great revelation. So I'm starting to see these pieces develop. But at the same time, it's still a very raw basketball team where there, like you said, there are nights where you go, hey, like, yeah, we could probably beat South Carolina. But then there's also a night where you could lose by 30 and go, well, that's kind of what we expected. So, but it instills fun, if you know what I'm saying. Where like you can kind of go into a game and go, yeah, like if guys play, like we can beat this team.
And Patrick, I think it's speaking of being naive, like for me, like the team has a lot of great pieces on it, but the problem is that they haven't had the chemistry. If you're somebody that doesn't know sports or doesn't know, in this particular case, basketball, it's more than putting five dudes that can play basketball. They've got to be able to play
Right.
together like a well-oiled machine. And that's what, for me, I think that they've done a nice job with recruiting and getting these guys in and the guys to stay to buy in and all that. I think that what I'm curious to see is not the non-conference, because I think it's, for the most part, except for South Carolina State, that's a whole nother show, as they say. But for the most part, it's going pretty much what we would expect. What's going to be the difference for me is when we start the conference play, and hopefully by then the rubber will meet the road with the conference play, and those guys will, in January and February, will start to really play together. Because it sounds like you're closer to the team than I am, Patrick. It sounds like those guys are really like hanging out and they're real dudes and they're having
Yeah.
fun together on and off the court.
Oh yeah. We've talked. I think it's just a couple guys are like Javon Small, Brandon Johnson. I'm pretty sure are roommates, and I mean all the time that they've just talked about just meshing off the court, and I feel like that's really cliche in what we do, right? When we talk about sports, these guys are friends that like each other. But for a basketball team, I feel like that goes further than other sports, if that makes sense. Because every single time on the court, you're moving, you kind of have to anticipate where one guy's going. And I think we're kind of seeing that. I think we're kind of seeing guys enjoying playing with each other. And even some of these transfers, like Jaden Walker from Iowa State, like we're kind of seeing how he's able to move off the ball. Like I feel like there's some games like especially last year. I feel like we didn't really see that much. We saw a lot of like ISO ball, kind of like your turn, my turn kind of stuff. And this year we're definitely kind of seeing like, hey, let's get you involved. Let's get me involved. And we're kind of seeing like a kind of a more free flowing sort of offense, which I think is great. But I also think like the defense sort of needs to somehow find its way as well in that scenario.
Yeah, Brandon Johnson has averaging 13 and 9, right at a double-double.
Yeah.
He's a guy that last year really surprised me, and I know Coach Dooley, they brought him in, and man, he's been great. And I'll tell you another one that that I look to that I really like winning the dunk competition back. Minji's madness was is RJ Felton. I really love that guy. I just his play even last year, and you were talking about, you made a great point about Javon Small. I think one thing about our society that kills me is we're a Pop-Tart society, meaning we're instant gratification. Like Javon Small comes in, he's supposed to have 23 points a game. And yeah, we have these McDonald Americans, and we have these guys that are lottery picks after 1 year, but there's also guys like that. They just need a chance. They need to come in and learn the college lifestyle of going to class and all the study halls and all that mess that you have to go through in college. And I feel like with Javon Small, it's like it's not like that Dooley was like misusing him. I think it's just you're starting to see like the game. What I'm trying to search for and getting to now, the game is slowing down for him, where now it's his game, and he's really seeing the court very well, the vision and all that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like there was never a point last year. I mean, like you included. There's never a time where you're like, man, all this team needs is Javon Small, right? Like there was never a time when any of us were clamoring for Javon Small. But like you said, he got a little bit more comfortable. I remember talking to him at media days, and I was asking him just about that, and I was saying, hey, like, you have the opportunity to be like the point guard for this new coach, this new team. And he was just like, yeah, I really worked hard in the off season to kind of get into this role and just kind of figure out when I go to class, how do I sleep, how do I go to work out? Like, there's a lot of that stuff in college you kind of have to figure out. You can't just roll into it because in high school everything is so structured. And I know at some points colleges too, where hey, you got practice, class, but you still have to figure out that aspect. And I think this year Javon really kind of understands his role as a basketball player, and he is also given the opportunity to say, hey, you're going to get 25 minutes or however many, 30 minutes. I think he's playing this year, 35 minutes, whatever it is. Just you're on the court, you're kind of directing this offense, figure it out, and it's been great for him. But like last year, maybe he wasn't ready for that. There was no one, like that team just didn't need this version of Javon Small. Like it's just kind of nice to see the progression from year to year.
No doubt about it. In fact, you're talking about Ezra Sarr, man, he is so quick. And if he stays healthy, he could possibly rewrite the record books. That guy is 6'9". What is he, 215, something like that? I mean, he's really athletic.
240.
240? Okay, 240. Amazing size, quickness, just the way that he can get from point A to B on. I know that we've talked about that, but it's A to B. He's so fast, and you don't expect that from. I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Patrick, he's 6'9".
Yeah,
that fast.
Yeah, right. And I think what comes down to him, at least what I've been able to watch, is decision making. So he gets that ball like right in the low post, and like he doesn't mess around too much. He just goes, I'm going to take my guy to the rim, or I'm going to give it up. But it's like that decision making is so quick, and he a lot of the times makes the right decision. Like offensively, he's taking this guy to the rack and he's going to score. What his problem is, I've asked Mike Schwartz about this multiple times in the post game. Like he needs to just limit fouls, and that just kind of comes with growing up too, just kind of learning how to play defense at this level and move your feet and stuff. But I mean, offensively, he's really fun to watch because he does get that ball and goes like he knows what he wants to do with it. Like I always bring this back to like I was a baseball player growing up, and like if you know baseball, any good little league coach is going to tell you like if you get the ball, where's it going? You know what I mean? Like think ahead. And I feel like Ezra does a really good job of that on the basketball court, of just thinking ahead. Like when he gets that ball, like he just knows what to do with it. And it's really fun to watch.
No doubt about it. And I tell you, two fundamentals of the game. You're talking about the fouling out, but also if you know a guy that I love that's my type of basketball, my style, by the way, the attacking Just take the
Yeah.
ball to the rack, slam it. Good things can happen, especially if you learn to player control, not obviously to get a charge, draw that. But the fact of his free throw shooting, isn't it like 40%, Patrick?
Yeah, honestly, if that, like, but to be fair, like the whole team is really struggling. Like Javon Small and I mean RJ Felton, to his credit too, he doesn't have as many opportunities, but those are the only two guys hitting free throws for this
Yeah.
basketball team right now. Everyone else is just underwater. It's kind of tough, honestly. That's got to be, and I think that's the most fixable type of thing. You kind of got to look at yourself a little bit and say, hey, no one's guarding you. Just make this shot, kind of thing. Like, if they make 5 more a game, and I know it seems like a lot, but I mean, it's out there for them. They need to start making some free throws, and there can be a lot of tide switches in these games if they start making these free throws, because it's really like two guys making shots. Other than that,
Yeah.
it's pretty rough.
Too many points left at the paint
Yeah.
there for sure. Another thing that comes to mind is, and Bubba's, this is way out of my wheelhouse, but I believe off the top of my head, and help me, Patrick, I think that Ezra is averaging 3.3 rebounds a game. A guy 6'9". I would love to see him. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be obviously 10 a game, but it needs to be closer to 10 than 4.
Yeah, it needs to be a lot more. I think a lot of with him is like he's just really dealing with foul trouble. I think for him to bang it inside, I mean, I know rebound isn't necessarily like a huge foul situation, but I think for him, it's just like opportunity based. Like he kind of creates a lot of fouls for himself. He doesn't play a lot at the end of first halves, and just for him to get in the mix of all that, like I think it's just kind of tough for him right now. I think he'll develop into it, but just kind of watching him play, like he's really sure offensively, but I think defensively he really kind of struggles. And it's like, do I go up for this? Do I go over the back? Do I get mixed up in this? So I think he's kind of picking his spots a little bit at the moment.
Let's talk about with the ball game. There, as far as at 2 o'clock on Saturday, upstate in Greenville, South Carolina. Well, what do you think the keys of the game? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but Pirates on the road. I know that the neutral site 2-1, as we mentioned, 0-2. What do you think they have to do to get a dub there in the upstate?
I think it's so like every time I watch them, there's always like a 8-minute lull of scoring, right? Like so they'll play great, they'll play some good defense, they'll score some points, and then all of a sudden there's like a 7 to 8 minute stretch where they just don't score the basketball. And I know it's easy to say and like you watch it and go, what the heck, pick it up, score some points, figure it out. But I think for them as a team to kind of work through those lulls is huge. Like if you can kind of figure that out, I think they'll be fine. And I think that's honestly the biggest key is to just try to like avoid those giant stretches of not scoring points. Like if you can just go 2 or 3 minutes and kind of figure it out, you'll be fine. And I think that's kind of the key to win. Just don't go. I got you.
Yeah, I got you back now.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, obviously, too, about women's basketball. We got a couple more sports to go. I'm trying to make it as fast as we can.
Oh, we good.
You cover so many sports now. Everybody at the Daily Reflector, Patrick Mason needs a raise. I'll say it. I'll be the bad guy. As far as Kim McNeil and the women's team, talk a little bit about the women's team. And I know they, unfortunately, I believe they lost the other night. They lost. Was that today? Gardner Webb.
Yep. Yeah. They lost this morning to Gardner Webb.
Yeah, it seems like it was last night. Sorry. Yeah. They lost 67-59.
Yeah. So their defense wasn't as effective today. All right. East Carolina women's basketball is the top team in the country in forcing turnovers coming into this game. Almost 28 a game. It was incredible. So I mean they're really, really good at jumping passing lanes and just making it tough on you. But today they only forced 21 turnovers. Gardner Webb kind of figured them out after the first quarter. They kind of so in the first quarter, Gardner Webb was just making all these ridiculous cross-court passes, kind of getting jammed up in the press, and they were like, "Hey, why are we playing like this? Let's just relax a little bit, play a little more smooth." And they kind of, I don't want to say figured out the ECU defense, but in a way, they just kind of like made things simpler on themselves. They just got like one quick pass into the post, scored, and kind of moved on. But really, I mean, it's kind of like the same story for a couple of years now. For a lot of years, just there's not enough offense, right, for East Carolina women's basketball. There's just the offense really isn't there. Like they go plenty of stretches where they'll force a lot of turnovers and stop points, and then they're going to score 8 themselves in the quarter. There's just too many times where they just don't score points, and that's really been their downfall because the defense has been incredible. I mean, they truly, like I said, top team in the nation coming in forcing turnovers. They are a good defense. They just can't score.
Well, that was you stole my thunder right there, but I guess that's for me is like the obvious. But that's what I'm praying for. Is I really like Kim McNeil. She's been great to us personally,
Yeah,
and obviously the show. I really like her, Coach Corey, all those folks. And if we can get the offense going this season, or if it's beyond whatever, then like you said, the defense has been stellar. It's for the most part, it's been. You want to talk about droughts for offense for the guys. I think the ladies as well. It's been a lot of times where we just couldn't score, and you got to,
yeah.
I remember the starting out at Radio in Greenville. We had I don't even know, you're too young to know her, but there was a ESPN radio personality. Her name was the Fabulous Sports Babe, and anyway, so she always had this one go-to every time, and it would drive me nuts. But it really is true. Score more points, and that's
Yeah.
what sports is all about. Score more points, and that's great that we can play defense, but ultimately we have to score more points.
Yep. And I look at this. So it's kind of a actually I was thinking about this today. Right. So I watched the ECU men's game, and their rotation really didn't get deeper than about 6 guys the past time out. Right. Like no more than 6 guys played double-digit minutes. So it was a really tight rotation for the ECU men. And when you go to the women, they routinely play like 11 to 30, like the whole roster, 11 to 13 players. I'm not saying a lot of them get the bulk of the minutes, but it's almost like a hockey, right? Where you just got you new players, and that is sort of what is required to play defense at the high level that they do. And I think I guess I'm wondering, it's like for you to be like the top, turnover forcing team in the country, they defend the three so well because they're running, they're jumping out to defend stuff. It's like you're giving up so much on offense. Like they do such a good job, but they just can't figure it out on offense. And I wonder if there is a happy medium, and even if Coach McNeil wants to play the happy medium. Like from her perspective, it's like let's stop everyone. Let's hold everyone to 50 points, which is great. But if like today, if a team scores 67 on you, you can't score 67 sometimes, and you're going to lose. So you're kind of caught in the middle a little bit. But you get a lot of some new transfers, and you hope they inject some offense. But really, it just comes down to like the returners just playing awesome defense. And like it's great, but like you said, you got to score more points than the other team to win. So you're kind of caught in a hard place. But
Yeah, in
I
fact,
think
they had 25 turnovers, 1 in 13. Thank you, Bubba, from three. He's
yeah,
the stats guy. He's the numbers guy, not me. But 1
hmm,
of 13 from three.
that's
You're not going to win a lot of games, my friend.
and that's been them all year. To be fair, like they really have not shot the 3-point ball well at all, like all year. Like literally all year, they haven't done it. And that's what basketball is now. You got to hit threes on
Yeah.
people. ECU defends a three well. That's fine, but if you're gonna make, like you said, 1 3 today, and you're gonna lose the turnover battle, like you can't expect to win, even against a team you should beat. You should beat Gardner Webb. Honestly, that should be a win.
And Bubba wants to ask about Amaya Joyner. How is she doing?
She's doing really well. I think when she plays, she's really assertive. But I think Amaya Joyner gets a lot of the talk because she's a really high recruit. She's also from Farmville Central. She's a nearby high school. But I think all of the freshmen, like Jayla Herp, another freshman, she's been incredible for ECU. Bobby Smith, another great freshman. Honestly, all three of the freshmen are playing really well. Jayla Herp is probably, if I had to pick one of the three, has probably been the most standout freshman of the three, of Amaya Joyner and Bobby Smith. Jayla just plays this aggressiveness that it's really fun to watch. Like she acts like she's a senior. She drives the lane. She's battling. She's really tough. Amaya, you can clearly tell she has great talent. She's really, really talented. I think she needs to kind of just find her role. She needs to find the speed of the game and kind of adjust a little bit. But um, really, I think the highlight of this season are all three freshmen. Because today, like for instance, today, Danae McNeil, leading scorer for the Pirates, she scored 8 points in the first half, didn't score again in the second half. It's like you can't
Right.
like, and that's part of the thing with this team. It's like you need some offense. Your leading scorers just got to take over. You say Danae, score every time for us. Like you got to figure out something. But I mean, if you want to talk about Amaya Joyner, I think she's great, and I think all three freshmen are really really something. I think those are the things you really got to be happy about this year.
No doubt. Let's move to baseball because I'm chomping at the bit. And by the way, I got my tickets today. Definitely in the jungle, but I want
Okay.
to tell folks if you want tickets even in the jungle, you better go ahead and get them now. I mean, I can't believe I'm not surprised overall, though, when you think about how great Cliff Godwin is as a person, pirate, the heights he's taken this program is amazing. I don't think that we would ever imagine at the level, the expectations that we have now. There was always expectations, but I think even, I hate to use a cliche, but I think even the expectations are at a higher level than we've ever had in the university, the history of our program. And to think about all the great stuff he's bringing, like the down the left field, the premium seating and all the locker room and all that stuff. And Pirate Nation stepping up again with the construction. We're going to have all that stuff. And I think Omaha is only a matter of time. I hope that you and I can hang out in Omaha in June.
Yeah.
But what are you feeling like for the Pirates going into the season? I know we're a little early, but it doesn't feel like it's too early.
No, it was like 2 months away, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how stuff pops up on you. I guess just kind of looking at what they did in the fall, it sounded like a lot of the pitchers, like a lot of the young pitchers, pitched really well in the fall.
Yeah.
And I know, like performing in the fall is what it is, but I think it kind of shows that like all of those guys are just primed for next steps. I'm talking about like goodness, who's that freshman pitcher? Jake Hunter, guys like that. Merritt Beaker. I mean, just stuff guys like that who kind of had like, Merritt especially like kind of a limited role in the bullpen, but obviously showed some talent when he was called upon. Jake Hunter getting a ton of Sunday starts, and I guess he was just balling out in the fall practices. And I mean, I am so excited to see what Jacob Jenkins Cowart has in the second year. I mean, he
Gosh.
was incredible as a freshman. I mean, that's just like middle of the lineup stalwart, like just go get him kind of guy. Just I think I too am really excited about this team. Obviously, you're gonna have to fill holes like Zach Agnos and CJ Mayhew. But I guess that's like any year, right? You're gonna have to fill some holes and plug some holes. But I think what's coming back is really exciting. And I mean, just kind of what we saw with what Cliff recruited, you can definitely see some guys, making some impacts right away too. And like you said, it's like 2 months away. It's crazy to think about.
No doubt. But if you want your tickets, ecupirates.com, you can go there, or 1-800-DIAL-ECU. Let your fingers do the walking. And Patrick, let's talk real quick before we get out of here. Thank you again for your patience and your generosity
Yeah,
with your
thanks for
time,
having
my
me, guys.
friend. What about the bowl? As far as your coverage, can you talk about that? What you guys do? You have like a plan already in place with less than 2 weeks?
Yeah. So like this week, you guys probably got the email, but there's no media availability this week.
Right.
So maybe next week we'll get to talk to the team a little bit. But I'm gonna fly out on the 26th, the day ahead of the game. I think they got some events there. I think there's like a little parade and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So we'll do some stuff with that. Obviously the game. But you know what I'm really looking forward to is just kind of seeing how this team shakes out. I know for football teams in general, bowl games just really offer really valuable practice time. Like for instance, like Temple, like ECU's last opponent, like they didn't make a bowl game, so like they're done for the year. All the players just go hang out and do whatever they want to do. But Mike Houston's got these guys for like another month or 3 weeks, so
Right.
like I feel like that's just hugely beneficial. Like whether how this bowl game goes, good or bad, I feel like just this practice time is probably more valuable than almost the game itself. It seems weird to say, but like I think just looking toward the future, I think a lot of guys just getting some run and maybe who knows, maybe he's getting a good long look at the quarterback, Mason this week, or something like that. I think that's really exciting. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to this bowl game and just to kind of see what the team does, because there are going to be some new pieces. You're going to have a new center snapping the ball to Holton. You're going to have a different tight end starting. You're going to have some different guys out there. So yeah, it's gonna it's a little interesting, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I guess we'll kind of maybe learn more when we get to talk to the team, hopefully next week. And I guess we'll go from there.
And by the way, I'd love to invite you that night on the 26th, depending on when you get in. But 8 o'clock that night, hopefully I can make it in time for all. We were going to actually have a show, a live show. The place is called Overtime Sports Bar and Grill in Birmingham.
Okay.
I'd love to have you there that night. But we'll keep in touch, obviously. But I want to let you know that on air, and love to have a lot of Pirate Nation be there rocking. They were real thrilled that we asked them because they know how Pirate Nation shows up and takes over the town, so to speak. But Birmingham's going to be great. And one more thing, Bubba wanted to ask about your thoughts on the bowls. Which bowls are you intrigued by?
I'm gonna, because I went to the University of Iowa. I'm gonna pick that one. But honestly, if you're not from either of those teams, I probably wouldn't tune in. Probably gonna be some terrible offenses because I think both quarterbacks aren't gonna play. So who knows what to think about that. Other than that, honestly, I'm a big final New Year's Day kind of bowl guy, or I guess New Year's Eve this year. College football playoff guy. I'm a huge. I'll be watching those, and I mean, I'm really excited about that. So.
Do you care anything about? I'm putting you on the spot about soccer, where the final of having Argentina versus France.
No, I like whoever wins. I will not be affected one way or the other. I kind of stopped watching when the USA got knocked out, and to be fair, I only kind of barely tuned in. So I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's fun. Like some of the games when it's like 3-2, it's fun, but like I just can't sit through like a 0-0 soccer game. It's just hockey.
Bubba, I want to ask you too. Also, your thoughts on Coach Prime, other coaching changes.
Yeah, I guess it just is what it is, right? Like all the kids are hopping in the portal and coaches all over the place. Like, for instance, Coastal Carolina coach not going to be there. It's just interesting. I think we asked Coach Houston the last time we got to talk to him if it's going to impact him sort of his game prep, and he said no. I mean, they're probably going to run the same sort of stuff. And, I mean, you can't see an interim coach kind of implementing this crazy new stuff anyway, but it's more so like I think it's just this kind of the nature of this time of bowl season where there's a lot of players missing, there's coaches missing. It's just almost it's just an extra game that people just like watching football for, right? Like,
well, it's going to be great on December 27th. In fact, the very first time they've ever done a night game. They talked about in the press conference today. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So under the lights for the very first time, and it'll be 6:45 our time, 5:45 Central Time, where we'll be there at Protective Field, which is right behind me. And cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun, my friend. By the way, how can people follow your work? Extreme close up there, Bubba. Showing my age there. I'm almost 50, dude. Almost 50. You got to back off of there. But anyway, how can people follow your work there on Daily Reflector? Is it reflector.com off the top of my head?
Yes. So reflector.com. And then if you follow me on Twitter, it's like at PM222. And I will, a lot of time I tweet stuff, I retweet stories. And so, yeah, you can follow me there.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And if I don't get a chance to see you, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We'll see you down there in Birmingham after the bowl. After the holidays.
That's right. We'll see you down there. Have a good Christmas.
See you, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Good night. All right. Appreciate Patrick so much for being with us tonight. And great time had by all tonight. I want to remind you, we got lots of great programming coming up. Bubba, you there? Let's see if we got Bubba.
I am.
Okay, cool. We wanted to mention to everybody, we got a big show on Saturday, and real excited. Bubba, I appreciate you behind the scenes helping us out as well with that. We've got a Porky's Backyard Barbecue from noon until 2. We're going to be there. I know the guys like Bubba's going to be chiming in and out. Matt's got some stuff going on. He'll be chiming in. I think Kyle should be back with us on Saturday. It's a Christmas toy drive, and it's presented by us and Porky's Backyard Barbecue. You can drop off new unwrapped toys. All the toys, if you're watching on the show right now, it's going to ECU Health's Maynard Children's Hospital. The folks there, that's my day job. They're so excited we're doing that for them. And Porky's is located at 805 East Boulevard in Williamston. And again, you can go by there now through Saturday. And as a matter of fact, they'll be open until 8 o'clock tomorrow and Saturday. So make sure you check it out. And a special guest we have Santa, noon until 1. Bubba, it's going to be so much fun. In fact, we have a special on Saturday, barbecue dinner, 2 sides, only $8.99. And if you know anything about food costs these days, $8.99 is a great deal, and they've got great sides. Oh my goodness, great stuff there. So looking forward to that, Bubba. It's going to be a lot of fun. And as I mentioned, we got a lot of great programming coming up in the next couple weeks. But I wanted to mention something to you guys. I just talked to Patrick about. We're excited, Bubba. You and I are going to be there, and that's going to be at Overtime Sports Bar and Grill in Birmingham. And we're going to be there broadcasting on the 26th that night at 8 o'clock, probably about an hour or so, maybe hour and a half that night. So if you're a Pirate fan, or if you can't make it, you can still watch the show. And I think that Matt and Kyle will be joining us from their homes. So unfortunately, they won't be able to make it, but it will be a lot of fun. Right, Bubba?
Yeah, it should be a good time. I know, Richard Allsbrook and some of our loyal listeners plan on being there. And going back to the toy drive, Shell says, Dave, how could he donate something from Charlotte or someone in his situation?
I mean, if they want to get up with us off air, and we'll find a way, maybe the Cash App, and we could buy the toys, or we'll figure out something like that. And that would be fantastic. Like I said, what it is, all the kids that are in the children's hospital, they're having a tough time, right? And some of them, being in Eastern North Carolina, are less fortunate, and they don't have any toys. And so a whole bunch of toys are being donated between now and next Tuesday. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all the toys new and unwrapped. And on Monday, we'll take those to the Children's Hospital. And I want to give a shout out to Rhonda James, everybody at the ECU Health Foundation for the job they do for Children's Hospital and other stuff, their projects for ECU Health. So great stuff there. I could talk about them for hours, but we don't have the time. But it's going to be a lot of fun, Bubba.
Yeah, and this show tonight, since we're a little over 90 minutes already, we were going to replay our Chad Staggs interview. He's the interim head coach and defense coordinator for the Chanticleers. So go to our YouTube channel, check that out, and we'll also put it on our Facebook page and our other social media. We had between a 15-minute and a 20-minute conversation with Chad Staggs. And he's been there, part of that Coastal Carolina program for 4 seasons now. And it'll be interesting to see, if he follows Coach Chadwell to Liberty or what his future holds. Prior to his time in Conway, he had been at Charleston Southern, which is where Chadwell had been previously.
No doubt. By the way, I want to let everybody know that on Monday, we got confirmation today. I can go ahead and say it. Monday at 7 p.m., we're going to have Mark Meadows, executive director of the Birmingham Bowl, will be with us on the show. So if you have any questions for Mark, then that's going to be a great time on Monday night at 7 o'clock. And I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, we'll have that for you. We'll also catch up with the play-by-play voice of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers sometime next week for an additional preview of the game on the 27th, and then tomorrow, Sonny and Semenza, we'll have that for you. And that was a show that was pre-recorded, and we're releasing that tomorrow at right around lunchtime.
That sounds great. We've got so much. Bubba's working his tail off right now. I appreciate you, man, so much. We're trying really hard to. Obviously, there's football, there's basketball, there's all the different shows we're doing. It's really, really busy time, but we love it so much. I want to give a shout out, by the way, to Kevin Walker and LK Custom Homes. He's been awesome to us, and he sponsored the playback. I want to give him a shout out. Porky's Backyard Barbecue again. We got the big show on Saturday. Thanks to Mark and Terry Holiday. They've been very supportive of myself and Bubba and everyone. Go by and see them. They're open daily. Actually, they're open. They've got new hours. They've changed that, by the way. I forgot to tell you that, Bubba. Monday through Thursday, they're 11 to 7. And then on the weekends is 11 to 8. So they have changed that. I apologize again, Bubba. But call them 252-661-0337 if you want to do a holiday party. And by the way, they also call them, Bubba. Call them because they actually 661-0337. And the reason you do that is maybe you have some sides that you want, some collards, maybe some string beans, mashed potatoes, some yams, and you want that and you need some help for your holiday party. They'll do that for you too. They can cook up a whole bunch of stuff for you, and you'll be like a real champion for sure. And appreciate their support of the program. Bubba, do you have anything before we go?
Nope.
All right, that's the easy one. All right, we'll get out of here. Thank you, dude, for all that you do for us. It means a lot. Thanks to Shell, everybody watching tonight, Johnny Gardner, JR, appreciate everybody. We'll get out of here. I know it's been a little bit long night too. Hey, I've had a great time. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to all of you. Until next time, you've been watching and listening to the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to my last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let a team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our time, every 1-9 copy that. Everybody in the stands go bananas, scream loud, baby, don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first